Good evening. Welcome to the May 7th, Monday, May 7th, 2018 council meeting. If you have a cell phone or electronic device, I ask that you place it on silent. I call this meeting to order. We'll begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Domingo, if you please call the roll.
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Reed. Here. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
French. And Mayor Brown.
Here. Are there any comments from the council this evening? Councilmember Barnes.
Well, I want to start off by saying this is a tough subject. I've been getting some inquiries about Fedco and the Moose relocating, and some people thought the city of Albion had purchased those, and that's not true. They're private investors who are networking and resourcing together to purchase those buildings. The situation is such that I'm trying to inform my constituents that what they're doing is not illegal. There's a group with a vision. They have leadership that is showing they have the ability to lead, and they're showing that they have the ability to get people to follow. And it's the same statements over and over again. Albion College, the city, et cetera, and the term white people. So I'm saying that my own people, black people, should stop looking at it like that. It's progressing Albion, and if we want to be part of the puzzle, we need to come together and network, resource, put our finances together, and work toward a goal with vision and some substance. This is not intended to be a racial situation at all, but constantly I'm hearing this bickering, and I point blank tell them there's a historical black district owned by 90% black people, and you won't come together and resource and network to build your own community. And you keep focusing on some citizens and some private enterprise that are. In order to be involved, you have to come to the table, you have to have a business plan, and you have to make some sacrifices also. This has nothing to do with race. This is about progressing Albion forward. However, yes, behind the vision, there is gentrification, relocation of the people. I still applaud the Albion Housing Commission Board for turning down a federal grant to build new projects, as we call them, because there's privatization in there. Our United States Congress is allowing for privatization, and that means profit. In the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see the situation here in Albion totally different in public housing. It will not be affordable. They allow a certain percentage of those buildings to be designed as affordable housing. And most of the time, there's a 2-year contract. After they keep the contract, you can eliminate the affordable housing. So it's a situation where we have a city manager that's temporary. I said, give him a call. He can explain it. But it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with Albion College or the city of Albion alienating anyone. Again, private investors, networking, resources, and pooling their money to purchase property and build it with a vision. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So just kind of elaborate on some of the comments I just heard by Councilmember Barnes, and I respect his opinion. However, I think for us to sit here and act like the issue of race is not something we should discuss, I think it would be negligent on our part. When we look at the downtown district, I don't see a very diverse population of business owners, and that's a concern. I know historically Austin Avenue at one time was a very prosperous Black-owned neighborhood, and as far as businesses in the community. When we talk about the new Albion and moving Albion forward, we want to be as inclusive as possible. Why do we want to continue to separate districts and business districts by race? Why can't we have a vision that's inclusive for all? And I also want to say that as far as council, I know we are a policy-making body, and I am asking us at some point in the near future to get together to have a very candid discussion about where the vision for ARC, which is a private organization, and the vision for our EDC, which is a public organization, where does ARC's vision end and EDC's vision stop? Because I too hear residents say the college and the city, and I have to be honest and say there's some fuzziness, because you have a private entity that's intertwined with the public entity, and where does one start and the other begin? And as the policy-making body of this community, I think it's our responsibility, if we see some fuzziness, to get some clarity. So, I hadn't planned on making comments, but that's one of the things when in listening to Councilmember Barnes that I felt compelled to add. I too have been approached about FEDCO. I have concerns about things that I've heard in the rumor mill about why FEDCO did decide to sell. So, trying to piece that puzzle together, and once those pieces are in line, I'll likely be bringing that to council for a discussion. So, thank you.
Thank you. Want to acknowledge the efforts of volunteers in Riverside over the weekend for the veterans' graves. I think that was done. And then also, I think there was, I know Councilmember Lawler was out there. I saw her there at the first farmers market of the season. And then also, I'm sure residents have seen it, but there was some, I guess, national news coverage regarding the raccoon. Yeah.
Gotcha. That actually did not happen in the city.
Yeah, but one of our officers was there. So, but yeah, I guess it was Sheridan. But just wanted to acknowledge those things, and if there are no further.
No, I have to follow.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Seeing the development downtown, I'm trying to bring attention to Austin Ave, as I did last year. I've contacted 4, I'm gonna call them vendors, food trucks. I've seen that done in Detroit, and I'll be sharing some information with council on these 4 food trucks. One is Hispanic, one is the corn that they roast, another one, 2 other barbecues. I'll be trying to access the EDC property on Austin and Albion again, and try to allow, they have the legal licensing completely to have food courts on Fridays and Saturdays on Austin Avenue, formerly known as the Corner, which was the historically Black business district. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment, we'll move on, or comments, we'll move on to the city manager report.
I would just like to mention that on May 3rd, Senator Knopf's notified us that we were the recipients of 2 Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund grants. I shouldn't say we, us in Calhoun County, but both of the Albion area. The first one was for the Eastern Calhoun Albion Iron Belt Trailhead acquisition for $231,900, which will be the acquisition of 65-acre parcel of land, which will be the land that is just south of the cemetery as you leave town. So it's actually not in the city, but the hopes in the future is for that to become the trailhead for the trails through Albion. And the second part of that was the Albion River Trail expansion, which is for the city of Albion for $255,000, which will extend the Albion River Trail up Albion Street from the river to Austin Avenue, and then from Austin Avenue out to the city limits. So,
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, from where to?
from the river up Albion Street to Austin Avenue, and then from Albion Street out Austin Avenue to the city limits, to the west.
By Malibu Park?
Yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Presentations for the Older Americans Month proclamation. Is there any representative? Okay. I'll read that and then I'll go to the next one. So, Older Americans Month, May 2018. Older Michiganian Month, May 16th, 2018, and Calhoun County Centenarians Day, May 17th, 2018. Whereas Calhoun County includes a thriving community that includes over 28,500 citizens aged 60 and over, who enrich and strengthen our community, and whereas Calhoun County is committed to engaging and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers, and whereas Calhoun County Senior Services, Carewell Services Southwest, Region 3B Area Agency on Aging, and other service providers for older adults are committed to raising awareness about issues faced by seniors aged 60 and over, and to helping all individuals to thrive in communities of their choice for as long as possible. And whereas Calhoun County provides opportunities to enrich the lives of older adults by promoting and funding home and community-based services that support independent living, involving older adults in community planning, events, and other activities, and providing opportunities for older adults to exercise and be as healthy, as active as possible, work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. And this is from the Calhoun County Commissioners, but it's from the city as well. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim May 2018 as Older Americans Month, May 16th, 2018 as Older Michiganians Day, and May 17th, 2018 is Calhoun County Centenarians Day. And there's I guess an annual dinner that goes along with this at Schuler's for those in the county who are 99 and older. So, and so I'll now present another proclamation. City of Albion celebrates White River Albion, which is May 14th, 2018. Whereas the Albion Recreation Department began a bike ride program in May 2015 to celebrate Albion Week and promote Albion as a destination for parks, recreation, and trails. Whereas the City of Albion honors the increased importance of the Albion Recreation Department as a source of inclusive programming that connects residents across generations, neighborhoods, and activities, including the arts. Whereas the residents of Albion and surrounding communities are invited to share fun and beauty of biking in the city of Albion each year for the day after Mother's Day, which is we're celebrating here actually in Albion. And whereas the city of Albion recognizes Albion Week as celebrated annually in the week following Mother's Day to celebrate the city's local history, culture, and resources. Now I therefore, dear Brown Mayor of the city of Albion, hereby proclaim the day following Mother's Day as Ride River Day in Albion.
I'm taking this on behalf of the Recreation Department. I did want to say a few words to acknowledge the Recreation Department and their work in the city throughout the years. So I'm Linda Lanou, and I wanted to take a moment to highlight, because Albion has more parks per capita than any other U.S. city, with the river running through the city, the world-class disc golf course. It is a destination for recreational opportunities, and so I hope to see more economic growth around those things as well. So the Albion Recreation Department began as part of the Albion Public Schools and later became a department of the City of Albion. Albion once had an outdoor municipal swimming area from 1914 to 1957 called Dutchtown, located on the river near the Albion College athletic field. Coach Jerry Sikarsky of the Albion Recreation Department developed a unique baseball program in the summer of 1956 that became the world-famous T-ball. Joe McCracken led an ice skating program at Rieger Park for many years that I've heard a lot of people look back very fondly on. Tillman Cornelius became the recreation director for the city of Albion in 1969, serving for 30 years. He played baseball with the Malleable Giants and was a phenomenal athlete. And today, the Albion Recreation Department is run by Larry Williams, and it has a variety of programs which continue to grow, including swimming, art, bicycling, and music in the park. So we hope all of you can join us next Monday at 5:30 to ride the river. We're meeting in Victory Park near the basketball courts.
Are there any questions from council? Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to a public hearing. Open that up. And this is an amendment to the medical marijuana zoning ordinance. If there are any public comments on this reading of the ordinance, if you please come forward, state your name and address, and observe the, 3-minute comment limit. Are there any public comments on the first reading of this ordinance? Okay. We're going to close the public hearing, and then if Attorney Harkness would like to have any comments, we can have council comments as well.
So all I'll offer to council is this is the zoning modifications as recommended and approved by the Planning Commission, so it just modifies the city zoning to allow for the facilities that the council has adopted, in a nutshell, to the designated districts, the M2, M2P, N1P, and the 3.
Okay. Are there any questions from council? So these basically incorporate the kind of like you were saying, the distances and things, the conversation that we had earlier.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Seeing no comment from council, I'd ask for a motion to approve the ordinance this first reading.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay. Moved and seconded. We've had discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Public comments. Persons addressing the city council should limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes. We ask that you observe proper decorum. Are there any comments this evening on agenda items? If you have those, would you please come forward? Seeing none, we will move on to consent calendar, which is the approval of the various session minutes, and then also authorization for a couple permits for assembly. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'll make the motion if you could just be specific about the permits that were.
Oh, okay. One is for the annual French Market, which is on June 9th, scheduled for June 9th, and one is for the Juneteenth celebration, which will be on June 16th at Holland Park. Oh, well, that's not an assembly one, but that's I'm forgetting which organization that is, but it's basically a fundraiser. Thank you.
So I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved in second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. Items for individual discussion, request approval for 5 medical marijuana grower licenses for Greenhouse Farms LLC. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Or
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Do you want to?
So, since the council's never done one of these before, the way that our ordinance is set up is that the planning commission does their assessment, and then the city council assesses each application. And pursuant to our ordinance, there's several categories that the council is supposed to evaluate when determining whether or not you're gonna approve a license for a facility. And I'll just go through them very briefly, that the experience of the applicant in operating similarly licensed businesses, general business management experience, general business reputation, integrity, moral character, reputation, financial ability of the applicant, financial ability to purchase and maintain adequate insurance, sources of capitalization, whether the applicant has been indicted, charged with arrest, or convicted for any relevant criminal offense, past convictions of the applicant, any criminal charge that may impair the ability of the applicant to operate a licensed business, whether they filed for bankruptcy in the past 7 years, whether they've been served with a complaint or notice regarding any tax delinquency, history of non-compliance with any regulatory requirements of the state or any jurisdiction, and number 13 has to do with provisioning centers and when applied to either set of applications. So the council should evaluate those factors. I know that the various department heads of the city, finance department, the planning department, manager's office, clerk's office, and my office have all looked at these very comprehensive applications, which took me a while to go through, but you know, I gotta say it was very comprehensive. So I know that I have a couple of questions, but I mean that's just the process that the council should follow.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a question for Attorney Harkness. Any application received, do you all weed those out, or does every single application come before council?
So how it, in an ideal world, how it would work is, for example, in this case, my understanding is the applicant provided copies of applications for all the departments. Each department goes through and basically looks at, you know, for example, finance department, are there any tax delinquencies for the applicant, and things of that nature, to see if, okay, has it cleared this department? Yes. Check the box, move on to the next department. If there's an issue, the way that the process should work is that either it'll get addressed before getting to the stage or at the stage by letting the council know. For example, there's a, you know, we've had a problem with this particular applicant not paying income taxes or things of that nature. So my understanding is, though, that in this case, all the department heads have reviewed the applications. I don't know about any of the other department heads having questions. I know I have a couple, but and I think as a whole, we could probably make a recommendation to the council tonight as to how you should proceed. But I think based on that information, you need to evaluate those factors that I went over as to whether or not you're going to approve or not approve the application.
What? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that answer, but, okay, so what I heard you say was basically every department head that needs the application received it and went through it, and tonight you all should be able to make a recommendation to council. So this is what I'm trying to understand. If there's an application that doesn't meet certain requirement and you're seeing that, are those applications being brought to us anyway or not?
I think it would, well, I guess I would say this. I think in an ideal world, what would happen, I'll use the tax example because it's simple. If there's a tax delinquency, in an ideal world, what would happen is, in that scenario, the finance director would notify the applicant, you have a tax delinquency, I can't recommend approval to the council at this point, and maybe head it off at the tax. Or like, for me, if I noticed that there somehow was a non-compliance with one of our city ordinances or something like that, I could notify them, hey, you haven't complied with this requirement, and head it off at the pass. I don't know, I'm speaking for myself in this case, I don't think that any of those issues have come up. I think there's some questions, but not any red flags that would say we can't recommend approval to council in this case.
So, you answering me like an attorney.
So, I'm lawyering this. So, what I'm saying is, I think that if there were deficiencies, the application would not be brought to you for approval.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Barnes.
Well, I would think that they have representatives here today to answer some of our questions, wouldn't they? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I was going to offer that. I was going to note, so the letter that we received regarding the member stakeholder change, is that
Yeah.
included in?
I believe the clerk passed that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is under our process, is that just enough to amend the application?
It's just a supplement, that's fine.
Okay. I'd like to, as Councilmember Barnes suggested, if there are representatives, if you would like to speak to that, I'd offer that opportunity.
Hi, my name is Gary Goodman. Along with my brother Mark, we're the operating owners, along with some trusts for our kids. So I can give you a history about our business and what we do, and maybe how we got into this. My father started a steel business in 1953 in the Detroit area, and since his deceased, my brother and I are the sole owners of the company. It's 65 years old. I've been employed there for 53 years. My brother about the same amount of time, right from working summers through college, and then sales department and ownership. We have 4 plants in the Detroit area, 800,000 square feet. We employ about 350 people. We have 120 trucks and truck drivers. What we do is we buy steel bars for manufacturing into automotive parts. We do a lot of processing of the bars, heat treating, cold drawing, turning, polishing, cutting to length. Our bars, we ship all over the United States, but because Detroit is such an automotive capital, and still is, a lot of our bars stay in Michigan and Ohio, Illinois, Indiana. They're made into parts, suspension parts, truck parts, motor parts, brake parts. There's in the trucks, there's not a car on the street probably doesn't have something that we have processed and held on to, whether it's Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, Toyota, BMW, as well as John Deere, Caterpillar tractor. We also have a plant in Texas that does distribution into the oil patch and for drilling, processing, and refining of oil and gas products. We got into this because my brother has Crohn's disease, and after operations that removed part of his intestines, he's fought this for maybe 30 years now, with different medications, the old kind, the new kind, and what's happening today in the industry. Really hasn't able to find something to keep his Crohn's disease at check. So reading on the internet, everything comes through the internet. There's lots of medical processes that people are looking at in cannabis to doing things for anxiety, ileitis, Crohn's disease, intestinal problems, sleep apnea, and many other things. So that's kind of really how it brought to the head and how we got involved in looking at this. Of course, we also want to make money doing this, but it's even though processing steel and processing cannabis it seems like two different things. All the business systems, the quality control, the certifications, the testing, we have a testing laboratory, all very, very similar because you have to be very specific. In cannabis, everything has to be tested, labeled. Traceability is extremely important. So it's different, but it's very similar in the business acumen of selling this to the marketplace. This is medical marijuana, and it's not for general consumption. You have to have a medical marijuana card to do this. One day it may be recreational, but right now in the state of Michigan it's not. We plan on employing about 50 people. We're going to be involved in things in Albion, like we are in Taylor, Livonia, and Oak Park. We like to give back to the community, not only through employment and through beautification and anything else that's comes across our table for beautification of the city or things that the city needs.
Are there, Councilmember, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Barnes?
Two quick questions.
Sure.
What made you choose Albion?
We looked around the city of Detroit, Flint, Michigan, Kalamazoo. We thought Albion was tremendous. It's a small community. It's seems like a very safe community. It's in the center of Michigan. We found a great building, and you got the city has taken one little spot, an industrial area, and made it accessible for licensing. We thought that was great. The area is really nice. It's safe. It's ideal. It's not. I mean, it's perfect.
Well, I saw its tie. I thought that was Albion colors. My final question is.
U of M.
Oh no, you don't give me a I'm with you. Okay, go green. I'm seeing a lot of good missing. Are this family,
Yeah.
kids, and things like that? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I have two sons, and my brother has two kids also, so a lot of trusts.
And Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned that you're looking to employ about 50 people. That's with the total amount with the 5 licenses, well, the 6 total licenses, right? Yeah, that's total, whatever your plan is, and
Right.
that vision is 50 total potential jobs. That would.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Spicer?
Thank you, Mayor. Can you also briefly tell us what you involved yourself in the communities to which you currently?
Well, in the city of Oak Park, we're involved in the beautification program, awards for beautification. We have 2 plants in Oak Park. That's where originally my dad built the first building. Involved in the sports programs, and in Livonia, also sports programs, beautification programs, and Taylor, Michigan as well.
Okay. So you have a question?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
You know me?
Yes.
Okay. So I just have a couple questions
Sure.
for you. And let me say that I initially, when I loaded these binders into my car, this is going to take me a while, but there's just something. Maybe it's the attorney in me. I just appreciate the detail. So you guys put together a really good package. So I have just a couple of questions for you. I just need clarification on something. So you submitted several affidavits where you made several disclosures about criminal history or lack of criminal history for stakeholders. The only one that caught my eye, because I believe one of them has been withdrawn when you submitted the supplement to signing the interest, was for a Roger Goodwin, and it indicates that it pled guilty to possession of marijuana in Oakland Circuit Court. What caught my eye about that is the only way a criminal case is going to get into circuit court is if it started off as a felony. And the case code that's there, or the case number that's listed there, is not a criminal case number. That's a licensing appeal case number. So I'm just curious. You know, it ended up being a possession charge, but I mean, my assumption is that it started off as a delivery manufacturer or a PWID, possession with intent to distribute case. I'm just curious, what was the original charge?
Well, it's my son. He's 36 now. It happened when he was 18 or 19 years old.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So, with all due respect, Attorney Harkness, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I want to be productive and in line. Mm-hmm. So, I asked earlier about the applications and everybody weeding them out before they came to council, right? Mm-hmm. I just, I wonder if this is something we need to table until there's a discussion here and some clarity here, and then they're brought back before us.
So,
I mean, I can speak to. I mean, I can say this. I don't. The end result is a possession charge, which is very common in the criminal system. I just think, for you as a council, when you're under our ordinance, you're supposed to make evaluations based upon criminal background. I don't think this disqualifies the applicant. I just think you as a council need to be aware of what the original thing was. And here's the thing, I can't investigate that because a possession charge in Michigan, this particular count was probably taken under what's called 7411 status, so it's a suppressed status, so it's not like we can run a standard background check on it. And so that's why I just asked the question.
I understand that, and I know you're doing your job as our attorney, and I appreciate that. I don't know if this is the appropriate forum for this. It's my thought that maybe this needs to be a conversation that takes place before this license is brought before council. So everybody who's reviewed these applications can say, we're in support of, or council, these are the concerns we have, and we have the information in our packets, and that's just, and I know this is the first time we're doing it, but this just seems like something that could have been discussed and brought to us outside of this, this meeting is what I'm saying.
Okay, so I think part of it, so I get what you're saying, so, and I get the fact that you've read through the entire document. I think what we might need to do going forward, I don't know if it needs to be part of the ordinance, but maybe, so for example, when we do board and commission appointments, I know there's like a checklist of different things for each of the departments that review applicants. So maybe we need to establish, a form, at least when it comes to council, we can have, a general form of memo for each of the different, so whether it's a public safety concern, whether it's, zoning or something, that will have that as a memo. And so I think going forward, I hear that. I think, like I said, this is the first time doing it, so I understand it's going to be rough. But
that's fine. Well, we can do it for him in the future. Yeah, I mean, that's not a problem. So, like I said, I don't think it's a disqualifying thing. I just think it's something that you need to know when you're evaluating the ordinance. And it's just something that caught my eye. So. Okay. So, Councilmember Brown, and then I'll.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry. And I respect that, and I get it, and I get it, Attorney Harkness. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Okay, I just want to make sure, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I got to say something. Sorry.
So, Councilman Barnes.
Okay, she made a point of order on procedure, so I want to know what's your ruling.
Well, I'm going to allow you to ask the question, but I think going forward, we need to have, like a standardized. Like this is the first time we're doing this.
I understand. First time I've done it too. Yeah.
So we're going to have to kind of formalize a list. So in the future, what will happen is we'll have each of the different departments that engage in evaluation, and so we'll have those comments before. So I'll go. You can continue, and then we'll.
Thank you.
So he's 36 now. It happened when he was 18 years old. He was with a friend in a car smoking pot, and police, came up to the car and gave him a ticket. And I don't remember which court, circuit, federal, whatever,
Well, I'm just, I don't want to browbeat this. I'm just, to get into circuit court, it would have had to have originated with a felony charge. So that's why I was curious. But, it ended up being a possession, and as long as, what threw me was the case number is not criminal case number, it's a licensing appeal case number. So,
No.
it was just a little bit inconsistent, but as long as it ended in a possession charge, it is what it is.
Okay.
The other question that I had for you, again, it was a very well put together packet with regard to the 50 employees, and I looked at the, I guess it was, I'm not sure if it was your business plan or basically your outline of here's how our staffing plan is what it was.
Right.
So the staffing plan leads me to, it mentions, I think you referred to it as living wages and benefits and things of that nature, which in my mind presents the image of the traditional employee. But when I looked at your EIN application, you indicated upon your application that you will not have employees who receive W-2 forms. So I'm curious, as when you have employees, will you be doing withholding? Because the reason I bring that up is that the city of Albion requires businesses within the city to withhold, do withholding taxes and things of that nature.
No, it's absolutely the intention to have actual employees, and if you look back into the financial projections, you'll see the numbers there you'll see the specificity in terms of who's going to be employed and what the wage levels and benefit numbers are, et cetera.
Okay, and that was the only question, because that's what I assumed, based on looking at all the stuff, but then there was this response to the, as employees that receive W-2 forms that says no. So.
We will be paying taxes, yeah.
Okay.
We'll be withholding.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay.
I think it was a very comprehensive report, and my conversations with our chief / interior manager, the finance department, the planning department, and then my office. Unless one of them thinks otherwise, I would recommend approval to the council.
Okay. So, thank you for the review. I think that, like I was going to repeat what I was saying earlier, and this is not directly to you, this is a kind of a general comment, that going forward, I think it'd be helpful if we have, a formatted thing where each department can comment on what, if any, issues they uncovered, so we'll have that in the same place, so that, as Councilmember Brown was saying, those things can be described in memos to us before we get to this point. So, Councilmember Brown and Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council members.
So I do respect your ruling on the point of order earlier, and I appreciate your comments just then. What I don't want to happen is this to turn into what we just saw, which is a fact-finding thing, and that should have been handled outside of council, because that's not part of what we do in here.
Councilman Brown.
I don't want you to feel ambushed at all.
Okay.
I've always been open and honest, and that being your son, I myself have felonies, been deeply involved in illegal drugs. I want you to know that I totally support you. I looked at your application. I even shared it with Councilman Brown. I think you have the experience, and you've shown you can do it, and I'm going to support you. Don't feel ambushed.
No, thank you. I mean, this is new to the community, so, and it's a taboo thing for many years, 100 or whatever it is. So, I mean, it's all new to everybody, and I think we can be an asset to the community and employment, paying taxes, and it's the way things are happening in the States here and Canada, everywhere else.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so, just to make sure that there were no other concerns from any of the other reviewing departments?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay. And no further comments? Okay. And are there any further comments from council? Okay. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have a roll call vote on the request for approval of 5 medical marijuana grower licenses for Greenhouse Farms LLC. And there was a motion, there was a second. I see no further discussion. I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes, we've approved that unanimously. Item B, request approval of.
Thank you very much.
Approval of 1 medical marijuana processor license for Greenhouse Farms LLC. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay. Moved in second. Is there any further discussion from council?
The questions that I had were the same for both applications, and based on the applicant's responses, I can recommend approval from council.
Okay. Okay, and seeing there's no further discussion from council, and we have a motion and a second, I ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Item C, discussion of asbestos inspection of 608 Austin Avenue. Director Tracy.
John Tracy, Director of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. On the 19th of April, PSI Intech did a assessment of the property at 608. They took 61 samples, and then they were then forwarded to another business that does the research on it and testing on it. Primarily, the results of that is there is asbestos in the building, but not to an excessive amount. It's actually lower than some that would run across the same date time of being built. If you look on the one page that has the suspect ACMS sampled, you'll see primarily the things that did have asbestos in it was 9-inch by 9-inch floor tile. It's, okay.
I got it.
Which they found 300 square feet of. There was some paper duct wrap, which is very common for buildings built before 78 and going back in the 50s, 60s, and earlier. Some other floor tile also found in a couple of different areas. Some heat shield, which is used quite often around exhaust vents and furnace vents. And then some cement patch that has 100 square feet of that in there. Approximate cost for abatement, and this is just an approximate given by this company. We have not sought outside of for a contractor to come in yet and give us bids, but they estimate probably somewhere around $2,500, $2,000 to have it abated. So at this point, basically, we're ready to move forward and getting costs for taking the asbestos out and taking the building down. So we've got the assessment in, and it's, like I say, it's a low amount in there, but it's still going to cost a couple grand at least to take it out, fortunately.
Councilmember Barnes.
Okay, for clarity, you're saying $2,500 to remove this?
That's just an approximate.
Okay.
That's and this was just in their opinion on what they've seen from what they've dealt with in the past. This particular company does not do the abatement of it themselves. They just do the sampling and testing on it.
Okay.
So at this point in time, if council wants to move forward with getting the cost of the abatement, going by the assessment that was done, and then the cost of the demolition, then I'll get that out and bring back
Okay.
the cost next meeting.
The incremental stages was the cost to get the assessment. Now we're gonna move into the cost to take it out.
Take it out.
Okay, and what price are we now? We're at 2,500 projected to possibly take it out, and we paid.
Approximately,
How much
yes.
did we pay to get this?
Originally, it was going to be 1,800. They came in with more samples, so it's going to be just over 2,000.
Okay, so we're at about $4,500. Okay, thank you. What I like about the report is they state the danger in some areas where they couldn't
Right.
reach.
Correct.
Due to imminent collapse of the building.
Correct.
That verifies that it is dangerous for us. And most of this asbestos came out of the floor tile. That floor tile was from years ago. So we
Right.
really don't have anything that's gonna spread or blow in the wind or anything like that, like ripping them. Okay, thank you.
So one question, the fund that we're using to, I guess, pay for this is the solid waste?
Solid waste.
Okay. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. And how much was that in that fund? Was it 18,000? Is that correct?
I believe it was 18,000. That was.
So now we will be taking the 4,000 from that, so now we're at 14 balance in that fund?
After we have the actual abatement done, as long as that comes in with around the 2,500, then we'll have roughly 4,500, 4,600 into it. And then the remainder will be for demolition by a demolition contract, take the rest of the building down.
And will that 14,000 cover that demolition?
We're hoping it does. That's why I tried to get some bids back as soon as possible for both the abatement and the cost of the building come down.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any way possible we could start looking at some alternative ways to fund this? Like, I know we got that grant to demo houses and stuff. Like, who determines which houses get demoed or what gets demoed with those funds in the city of Albion?
Mine. Okay.
The funds or the grants that are obtained are by the Calhoun County Land Bank, and those are used for tax reverted properties. Those are not used for privately owned properties.
Your target.
And then also, those are for residential, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's a little different. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So what I'm hearing is that there's basically no money out there to demo anything other than a residence? Or do we know?
That's pretty much it
Okay, I just thought
at this time.
I think it's a similar issue with Union Steels, basically, or even the
Correct.
Dalrymple, because
Dalrymple, we're lucky.
yeah. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. So, John, that is we're only going to be demolishing one building with that fund. We're focused on one building.
That's what we're.
There are others there that need to be demoed as well. So is it possible to start looking, planning for finding monies to help with future demolitions of that lot? Because I know that there are others that are there that need to, once you take down one, the other one is going to have something to lean on, so it's going to be about collapsing or falling.
I mean, bottom line is we can always look and see if we can find money. Calhoun County Land Bank's done well because of about 5-6 years ago, we went through together on the first grants, and it was well done at the time. And typically, if you do a good job the first time around, you wind up getting more grant money through, which the county has. The city, we can look, see if there's anything out there in grants directly for the city. Whether or not we're going to find it, won't know until we look.
Okay,
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. So where would we start to look at who would be doing that? Would that be you or?
Right at this
'Cause I
point, it'd
wanna know-
probably be me.
Because I want to know who we can go to next time and say, did you look? No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I'd like for us to try and find money, free available monies out there to finish demoing that area as well as some other commercial buildings that need to be demoed.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can't start to rebuild the African-American neighborhood there if those aren't down. I think it's imperative to have those buildings down to even start to
Well,
get anew. You know what I mean? And you can't.
just like the building next door to it, when that was taken down, that was through the land bank when it went through foreclosure. So,
So if we get foreclosed.
yeah, typically, matter of fact, if I may,
Yes.
John,
Councilmember
are any of those buildings still owned by?
That's your mic.
Are any of those buildings on Austin Avenue still under the owner, or have all of them gone back to the land bank?
the other properties in the 600 block there,
Yeah,
those are still under private ownership.
private
Yes,
ownership, that's
yes.
what I thought.
All right,
So
none
you
of them
can't-
none of them have gone through the process of
Do about that.
going back on tax reversion. So, what I just handed out is give you an idea of how we work with the county, and the 10 houses on that list, there are some that are actually going to be coming down in the next month or two. And I know the land bank has received some more money, but until they start going back through what they've received in the treasurer's office this year, I think in Albion it's 28 properties, 24 of them being houses and 4 of them being vacant land that they received back as of April 1st this year. So that will be going through with what they have countywide, also in Battle Creek and Albion. And then they'll approach us with what they think they should take down and what the city would agree with.
Councilman Barnes? Do you have-
25.
Okay. So what I was going to suggest after Councilmember Spicer is that the Project Rising Tide thing, I think that's something that we might be able to ask the state, for assistance in maybe locating additional funding opportunities. Because I know that with with one of the major streets here, that kind of tipped the scale in our favor. So maybe there are possible opportunities if that's one of the things we say, hey, we need to deal with kind of blighted, we have basically blighted former industrial and commercial spaces that need to be raised. Right. So tonight, do you need approval for that? I know this is discussion, but do we need to?
I just
or do we have
need to know if council wants me to go forward with getting the bids in for the rest of it.
Okay. Well, yeah. So just getting bids, yeah.
Right.
I don't think.
So.
Do we need to? We don't need to vote for you to get bids, do we? Okay. Councilmember Barnes.
I thought the incremental steps that we had decided to take, that he would check each step, and after this discussion, he would go check and see how much it costs us to tear it down.
Yeah.
And after the meeting, put it on a future agenda item for our next meeting.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yep. Exactly what the plan is.
So I don't think anyone objects to you getting bids.
Okay.
So, thank you. We will move on to item D. This is a request for approval for resolution 2018-13, approved ballot language for recreation millage. There are two. Well, was there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second? for the recreation millage?
Yes, second.
Okay, moved in second so we can discuss. So there are two language, I don't know if interim manager wants to discuss it or.
We discussed this at the goal setting session, the 26th, I think it was. But the discussion there was for us to bring a couple different resolutions to the council tonight for discussion on whether or not they wanted to increase the millage or leave the millage at the same rate that it was. So that's what's provided here to show you what that is. I have it broken down a little more if you have any more questions as far as that goes. But
So, I was not at that session, but I do remember we discussed it at the meeting that was prior to that meeting. And I see there's like a program offering list here, but one of the things, so option A is to just keep it at the same number of mills, correct? And then option B is to increase it from basically 1.5 mills to 2 mills. And, you know, obviously the voters would be making the decision, but the question that I had, though, was the additional money, because if I remember correctly, we're paying $25,000 for rent.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And so my question was, like, what would the additional money be used for? I mean, would it be used to cover that, or, you know, what?
The main issue is currently we have a local grant from the Cronin Foundation that goes away after 2018 for $25,000.
Okay.
So the idea was that money, they gave us that money until we could renew this in order to make up that difference.
Okay. And then, so I guess, when I go down the list of offerings, obviously, you know, the swimming lessons are critical, or are a part of that, but I'm just curious about how, you know, how that could be negotiated in terms of that cost. 'Cause we use the gym, we use the pool, but yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. Just $25,000 for that, because we have our office, because there's an office there, correct?
Yes. The recreation department is housed there, as well as the access to the pool and the gymnasium.
Okay. And then for how many?
Cafeteria.
Do you know how many of the offerings? What the costs are? Do we know, like, if you know if there's like a, you know, the travel baseball team or the, you know, flag football? What do we know what we're charging?
I do not have it broken down as far as that goes.
Okay.
And Tom couldn't make it tonight, so I don't really have those answers.
Okay. You know, I'm not opposed to asking residents for the increase. I just know that, you know, one of the things we have to work, obviously I'm concerned about the rent being that amount. But then I know that there's a certain, I remember for a couple of years ago, there was a discussion about how with the loss of the school district, how, you know, sometimes individuals or, you know, families or youth will associate with the rec departments or the athletic programs in other communities. And I remember having that conversation, but I don't know if it really kind of concluded in, you know, like an action plan for that. And so that's one of the things that, you know, I don't think that would prevent us from asking this and put this on the ballot, but I think that's something that's going to have to be discussed before we, you know, allocate the money if it is approved in the next budget, you know, in terms of rent and, you know, basically what the future of the recreation department is in this environment. So, Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been talking with a couple residents, people in my precinct, which is majority elderly. They have expressed to me that this 2 meals is something that they feel that would fall back on them. I'm just putting some things out for council to think about because I was asked to. They feel like it would affect them heavily. They feel like some of the programs that we are offering through our recreation department, other businesses are also offering, and I was asked to ask the council to go through those classes or activities that come to us. Could we see what is already being offered versus two different entities offering the same thing to see if that would kind of help with the budget. So I am doing as I was asked, and that's about it.
So, Councilmember Reed.
We got a sheet last time where Mr. Williams had lined out all the things and all the things that he was offering, how many kids was attending it, and I don't, well, me, myself, I'm a senior citizen, you know, and I'm retired, but I still don't want to cut any of those programs that's for the kids, because we need to look out for our youth. I've been up there at different times, and I know that the swimming that they offer in the summer for kids, I always take kids up there for and things like that. And I am really in support of the rec department.
So, thank you.
And I would suggest that we invite Mr. Williams in to answer our questions or tell us whatever we need to know in order to clear the air on that.
Okay. Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. So at the goal-setting session, one of the things that I brought up was that right now we have an agreement with Marshall Public Schools to rent that space for $25,000 a year. And I just wonder if there's a way that we could lock that number in for the next 3 years or however long we extend this millage. Is that a rate that we could lock in? Because what I don't want to see potentially is that we, you know, raise the funds, increase the revenue, and then the leasing price go way up. And then that takes away from the programming because we're paying to lease space. So.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. I did locate the program and participants list that Director Williams provided at our previous meeting. And I think that the issue is whether, with regard to this discussion, is whether or not we will ask residents to approve the current levy as it is at 1.5 mills, am I correct? Or the alternative language of asking residents to approve a new mill at a total of 2.0 mills. So, and I think that when we discussed this at the last meeting, time was of the essence. Am I not correct? Okay. And so I think tonight we need to decide whether we're going to ask the residents to approve the 1.5 mil or the 2 mills, because it's not going to be up for us to, you know, to decide. The residents are. We just need to decide what language we're going to have put on the ballot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council.
Sorry, that's right. I just wanted to mention that the cost to a homeowner on this, if you had a $100,000 home with a taxable value of $50,000, that $500,000 increase would be $25 per year. So most of our residents are probably looking at half that, if not more than half of that. So it's not a large increase that we're talking about for the homeowner, for the things that we're going to be able to provide for the community. So just wanted to mention that.
Councilmember Barnes, Councilmember Brown.
I've been here 8 years, and historically, 65% of our tax base comes from our senior citizens, homeowners with problems. I think it's up to us, if we want this increase, to put it on the ballot and let them decide. I think how we market it to them and how we show them the history of the good that it's doing on paper could help. But I agree with Mrs. Reed. We're constantly putting this burden on our senior citizens, regardless of the price tag. I'm around town asking right now, how many people, 50 years, whole home found a home, 40 years, 30 years. It's just our job to put it on the ballot.
Okay. Councilmember Reed.
You're not agreeing with Ms. Reed, because I'm saying, give the kids the money.
Yeah.
Because I realized that when we were growing up, things we wanted to do in places, you know, and we wanted to have fun and we wanted to have activities and stuff like that, that at that time wasn't accessible to us. And now, so many of our young people are walking around with their phones in their hands, and it's all technical stuff, until sometimes they need to put that down and get in that gym or get in the swimming pool or something. I think we need to support the children, because I realize senior citizens don't have a lot, but as Chief Kip said, it's not going to be that much that they pay, and a lot of senior citizens that live in senior citizen homes, caring, they're not going to have to pay it anyway. So,
oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm all about the youth and supporting our youth. But I think it's important to be very honest with our community and say, you know, this potential increase was brought about because we need to cover the $25,000 leasing space at the high school building. It's not about, initially it wasn't brought up because we were trying to support the program or increase more programs. This was about leasing the space at the high school, which gives access to the pool and gives access to the gym. But with the money that could potentially be brought in from the 2 meals, my concern is I want to see that money be put into the youth and programming. I don't want to see that money be put into a higher leasing price. That's the concern that I have. So I mean, either whatever we decide to do, I'm fine with it. I also want to say this, though. I think it's also important. I know it sounds like a little bit of money, but when you're a senior citizen and you're on a fixed income, that could be a lot of money. And then potentially we have some other things coming up that's going to increase some rates in this community. And we want to give people the full story. So, you know, I have some concerns, but this will be up to the people to vote and decide. So,
thank you. Councilmember Reed.
And to what you said, I agree with that. I think that if we're going to keep it there, then something should be bargained as to how many years we can have that rate, so you know how to plan. But I still say we need to support the kids.
So I think, just to repeat what Councilmember Spicer said, is basically, you know, we're raising concerns which are legitimate, which I have as well. But tonight we need to make a decision to what we're going to put on the ballot. And like Councilmember Barnes said, the voters, the electorate is going to decide. So it's not with us. And then if we're fortunate and they do approve that, then we can have that discussion about negotiating, you know, with Marshall about the cost of the lease. So is Councilmember Lawler?
Thank you, Mayor. But our the resolution doesn't tell our community that we're losing the funds that were once covered, and we need to cover that for our stay at the high school. So that's my only concern. How can we put that in there so that they understand?
Well, what I would say is that, and I have not seen that agreement, but I'm sure there's an agreement with Marshall. I don't know if it's like a year-to-year.
I've not seen it either, so
Okay.
I didn't.
But I'm assuming is if there's an agreement there, there's a term to it. So it would actually, so what I'm saying is we can ask for the increase, it can be approved, but there's nothing to say that the city would, let's say, have to continue that lease. I mean, we might have to, do some other things, but, so I wouldn't, what we're asking for is just an increase. We know it's prompted by the concern about the lease, but that's a separate question because, once, basically what we're asking is we're just determining tonight how much we're going to ask the voters to approve. Right. But then the conversation about how we negotiate the lease, or how long it lasts, or whether it continues with Marshall, that's a conversation that we're going to have as well. So I'm not sure I would be that specific in language to the voters.
And I'm not sure we can be. Cohen, can you speak on our role in this? Because the city can't have a large role in what we say about this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, usually when you're dealing with millage, your basic, you basically just want to tell them the general department that it's for, the gist of what it's for, how much you're asking for how long. So in this case, it gives the amount that it's either going to be 1.5 or 2 for the time period. What the it's that mill per $1,000, and then it's going to be used for a rec program.
He didn't want to interrupt Attorney Harkness. He was taking a privilege. He has.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, I mean, yeah, you don't want to get too specific because if you add too many specifics in there, then
you're advocating.
Well, not just that, but if you say, hey, we want this money to do this, then you're committed. You can only use that money to do that.
Okay.
And to the exclusion of everything else. That's another reason you want to keep it very general.
Okay. Okay. Are there any further questions? Okay. Any further discussion? So, we approved the for the discussion, we had to have a motion in a second, but I think we need to decide on if we're going to do option A or B. A is to keep it the same, and then B is the 0.5 mil increase. So is there a motion for either one of those? To either keep it or to increase it?
Increase. I have a question before we do.
Okay.
So thank you, Mayor. Is there a plan in place that allows the rec department to continue operating as is under option A?
With Tom not here tonight, I don't know that I can speak to that. But we would not have the funds more than likely to be able to maintain the school as our rec department as it is right now, I would imagine. I do know that the increase in the millage will allow for more than doubling the program expenses, and will also increase the senior center funds that we provide on top of what we're doing for the school. But without the millage, I don't believe we'd have the funds to fund the school.
Okay. So this is, we're looking at putting this on the August ballot, correct?
Correct.
So if whatever language we approve and goes on the August ballot, and is voted down, we have time in November to
Put alternative
do
language
it
on,
again.
correct.
Got you. Okay, so,
So just,
Sorry.
I'll let the clerk elaborate.
So you have 1 week in between when they vote in August to when we have to have the ballot language for November.
So if it gets
Very
voted down, we have a
specific.
special meeting.
1 week. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember Reed, then Spicer. You had a comment?
No, I didn't raise my hand.
Oh, okay, I thought you did before. Okay, Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. So, if I recall, when Finance Director Mead was here was that last week?
Yep.
I think that I believe he said that the increase was necessary to continue the Recreation Department with the $25,000 Cronin grant going away. If we did not do the increase, can you remind me what he said, what happened, that things would be too tight? I don't remember what he said about
The main part about that was the $25,000 from the Cronin grant, that they gave us that to get by until we could figure out ways for alternative funding. There will be obviously more than $25,000. I think it's $38,000 that will result from a half mil. And so that would increase our program expenses from $7,500 to $20,000, and then the senior center from $8,700 to $10,000. So the majority of the leftover money, the plan was for that to go towards programming. So
For youth and seniors.
correct.
programming and not salaries, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
One more question.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So any reason, there's like a 0.5 mil increase, any reason you didn't do a like 0.25 increase? Just curious.
Yeah, you can choose whatever amount.
I'm just wondering why that wasn't.
Well, I think one of the complaints was some of the lack of programming that we had and his ability to do that. So the hope was to have the extra money for the programming as well, so that we could offer more programs.
So, but what I think she's asking is, if we ask for 2.5, that would, because right now, it's only two-person staff.
No, I think she was asking if we did like 1.75, weren't you? Oh.
2.5.
Oh, 2.5, okay. We just didn't think anybody wanted to go that high.
No, I mean, instead of,
Yeah,
0.25.
so,
that's
so it'd be 1.75.
Right,
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so I think it was the idea that normally we increase these by half mils, is use it the way we think, and that we could use the extra money for programming. Now that we have the facilities, we can do more programming with the money. So. And I think we're talking a difference of $5 maybe per household.
I know. It seems
Right.
like a little.
I know it seems like a little.
But
yeah.
when you earn a fixed income and you're
Absolutely.
an elderly homeowner, that adds up.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we know we have other things coming down the pipeline.
Yep.
And, yeah, I don't know.
Well, my recommendation here, because we have the other option, is we can make these other option is we ask for the two. If the community passes it, they pass it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, we pick which we want to do, either the half or the 1.75.
I agree.
So.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve option B, which is the increase?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved in second. I don't think there's any further discussion. We're going to roll call vote. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
No.
Spicer,
Yes.
Barnes, Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Request to approve Resolution 2018-4, resolution to approve proposals for heavy equipment, noxious vegetation abatement and mowing, and to approve contract for heavy equipment, noxious vegetation abatement and mowing with the John J. Hawkins Construction Contractor. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, let's see, John. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I'm looking in the back.
Right.
You want to comment? I'm sorry, I'm looking at that.
This year, we only received one bid on the mowing abatement bids. We put out for both bid both the heavy and then light mowing. As I said, we only got one bid back, and that was from John Hawkins for the heavy portion of it. Mr. Hawkins has been mowing probably the last 12 years for us. Each year the council has renewed the contract for it. This year his increase overall was $1.50 over for the minimum per mowing bid, and for the rest of us, $37.50 per hour was last year's, $38.25 per hour this year. So you're looking at an increase from $1.50 down to 50 cents per hour. And it would be my opinion, it would benefit the council to go ahead and go with the proposed bid. The one thing I will mention though is we do have to put out the bid once again for this light mowing, since we didn't have it. The individual who usually bids on that is no longer taking on. Yeah, he's overwhelmed with work right now. So
okay. So the one question I do have is, I know a lot of times when we put these bids out, there's a number of specifications. I'm sure there's like insurance things and those kinds of things. Do we know like what other? I mean, I know some cities might do. Every city might do things differently. But I'm just wondering how, in terms of our requirements, are they more open? Are they in the middle? Are we more,
Well, our requirements as far as insurance,
or just in general in terms of,
I would say we're pretty much like anybody else, any other cities. Primarily, the insurance is one of the big things that they have, and then of course the equipment to be able to do the work, because it's not the type of work that you just go down and buy a piece of lawn tractor or mower. You're looking at equipment that's heavier built and to go out and do these. Matter of fact, the light mowing the last couple of years, I know Mr. Lurkey was eating up a lot of belts in that, even though it was a commercial grade mower. But when you start running across grass that's like over 8 inches high, it starts taking a toll on the equipment.
So I guess my question is, if we don't get, let's say we get a point where we're not getting bids, what's our option? What are our options?
Well, I know that if we don't get any, then the city's kind of stuck in trying to get manpower to be able to do it from the city, and that's already slim and none. Everybody's stretched out. What we'll do is just reach out a little bit farther than we typically do.
Okay.
Go from there.
Okay. Are there any other further discussion from council on this? This is just for approval for the heavy equipment abatement of the tall grass and those kinds of things. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Item F requests approval of second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2018-05, and the previous resolution passed, by the way, but an ordinance to to amend Article V of Chapter 22, the various sections, and this is again relative to medical marijuana facilities license applications evaluation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moving second, is there any discussion regarding this? Do you want to have any?
So just to refresh council's memory, this ordinance adds in the provisioning centers to the medical marijuana ordinance that the council previously passed. It integrates the distance requirements for those provisioning centers, basically we've added them in throughout, and we've added in the minimum operating standards for those provisioning center, some of the things that we touched on were, the odor, where they could be located, things of that nature. And this would take effect June 7th.
Okay. Okay. Are there any questions from council? Okay. Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes, discussion, the purchase offer of city-owned property at 702, 704, 706, and 708 West Erie Street. Is there, well, there's discussion, but there's a roll call vote on there. Yeah, well, we can, I'll take a motion and we can decide what we want to do, but is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay. So, who wants to? Because do we have to have a public hearing eventually?
You have to have a public hearing before you can,
Yeah,
you can approve, or you can accept
okay,
an offer.
okay,
So tonight you're just discussing the offer.
okay. Has there been, I read the proposal in the packet, has there been discussion at all? Or is it just submitted? Okay. Okay. So I guess the one question I do have is that we have a public hearing, so if someone wanted to make a counter offer, I'm just saying it's, not that that's happening, but if someone were interested in doing a counter offer, like another neighbor or something, would they do that at the public hearing, or would they have to offer another bid now?
I guess hypothetically they could at the public hearing. I mean, anybody, at a public hearing, somebody could come in and say, well, I'm tendering to council right now an offer of this amount.
Okay.
Or, I object to the city selling it for this reason. Or
Okay.
whatever.
I guess if you'd like to, yeah, Mr. Sims, yeah, if you'd like to come forward, I mean, it's, you've submitted that, so.
Did you want me to?
So you're at,
710.
okay,
Ronnie Sims, 710 West Erie Street.
okay,
So I was interested in the 4 lots.
okay.
And I submitted the information. I don't know if you had that information. So I don't know if that was acceptable or would it vote for something different.
Okay. So the one question I had is when we did this for, I guess it was the Washington Family Home, which was along Albion Street. I can't recall, but can you remember how we calculated selling price? Do you remember it all?
I want to, if it's what I'm thinking of, I have to check with our assessor, but I want to say we did 10% of fair market value.
Okay.
That's what's coming to mind. I don't hold me to that, but I thought that's what we did.
Okay.
Because that was the first time we broke with the fair market value.
Okay. Could you get that to us? Okay. Okay. But what you propose to the council, I guess the second to last penultimate section there, says, my plan for the property is to combine 706 and 708 and build a home, and then keep that, the 702 and 704 as individual lots and keep them, okay, basically maintain them. So the question, I guess the only question when I had that, do you have a time frame of when you might
Build?
Yes.
Within the next 2 to 3 years, I hope to build.
Okay.
I'll just maintain the property until,
Okay.
finances come about.
And currently, the city maintains these? Okay. And if they were, I guess my question is, if they're sold for less than what, let's say the assessor appraises them at, does that change the taxable value? He's still gonna pay?
No.
Yeah. Have we had any interest in them?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And these are not on, like, the urban renewal side?
Correct. These are all on Erie Street.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, so part of what I'm thinking is I kind of want to get some information about what we did in that case with the family home, because that was actually taken out of the urban renewal. So that's the first thing. And then the thing that strikes me is kind of what sometimes what the EEC will do with certain developers. You have a development agreement. So say within a certain period of time, so like if you said, okay, 2 years, then we have to see like that happen, you know. And so I think that might be a way to, you know, make sure that, you know, because it's like, again, it's land it's kind of like what we were doing with the industrial park. It's land that is not being used. We're not getting any taxes out of it. And even if nothing was there, you're still paying taxes.
Well, this was part of my concern that was brought up at the last meeting that we discussed this with Mr. Sims. When I advised him that we provided the information to council that what we wanted to sell the property for, he in turn was told, no, you have to make an offer to the city. So he's now made the offer to the city, and now we're going back and saying, no, we're going to tell you what we're going to sell it for. Which was kind of what I said in the first place, is what are we going to sell this property for? So I think that's what we need to look at as a whole when we start talking about selling property in the city, is what the city's considering, and we have to set that as a standard for everything. If we offer $1 for this property, the next person that comes in here is $1, or if we say 10%, then it's 10% for everybody, so it's a fair market for everyone. On the other hand, I do agree that we need to get rid of this property. The city shouldn't be in the business of owning property because we're not making money on property that we're owning. And so the more we can get rid of, I think the better it is if it goes back to taxable values to it, and as well as property that is going to be developed. We don't develop property, so we need to get it in people's hands that can actually develop that property. I also know that at the next meeting we're going to have another offer for property as well, and I believe it's the same value of $1 for that property. And that's the property that's all behind the former Albion Manor, and a company that's interested in buying the manor along with the property behind it. So something else to think about as well. The only other thing I want to make sure the council considers in this is that any costs involved in the sale of this property needs to be included in whatever we're asking. So cost of title changes and all of that stuff should be paid for by the person buying it, not by the city. So. Okay.
So, before we schedule a public hearing, do we need to have approved a particular?
I think the council should develop something along those lines. I mean, I guess in my head, I don't know that it's as simple as saying, here's what we're going to do for every single property. Because, you know, to say, for example, 10% of the value of an undeveloped lot as opposed to 10% of the value that has, say, a sound structure on it might be two vastly different things. And to a certain extent, I mean, they might have to be evaluated on their individually, but I think for purposes, since we don't have that process in place, what you've got is an offer before you. The question for you tonight is, do you want to, is that an offer that you want to look at accepting, or do you want to make a counter offer as a city? I mean, I guess what's important is, kind of like what the manager said, is, you know, we express, you know, here's what we want you to do, and we don't want to put anybody in a position where they're negotiating with themselves. So, in this case, you have an offer of $4 in front of you. So, you have to decide whether or not you want to move forward with the $4 or make a counter offer.
Well, there's actually two offers. There's two.
Well, the second one has to do with the sidewalk assessment, and that really doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
well,
Councilmember Spicer.
thank you. Well, we could accept the second offer with a counter of removing the sidewalk assessment reference. So it is a valid offer. You just have to counter with
Well, I think, well,
I mean, I don't know, I think, isn't it?
what Attorney Harkness is saying, which is the sidewalk assessment has
Sidewalk assessment is
expired.
terminated, so
Right.
Yeah.
my reading of the offer is, I'll pay you this amount contingent on there not being a sidewalk assessment. Well, there is no sidewalk assessment, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so it can be counted.
So I guess for me is, I like the idea of development, and that's why I was asking that, like, is that's something that realistically you would want to do in that time frame?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I add that, I've been at this for 6 years. And it's kind of frustrating that, some property that people say that the city doesn't want, nobody wants it, and for 6 years is a long time. And so I've been before the council the second time. So each time I go back and I get the experts from the city and they say, do this and do that, and I've done it. And so now it's like, I'm ready to do something else now. It's getting to a point where I can just be at 710 and leave it alone, but I do want it to be developed, and I do want that property to look nice. The way my property looks, the rest of it will look the same way. And because I hate to say it, whoever cuts the grass, they just cut it. There's no care in it. And I want my grass, like the neighbor to the right's grass, to look like our property. And so whatever needs to be done, but I don't want to keep coming here and then there's another twist to go back. And I always go to the experts, to the people, and ask them what to do next. And that's what I do. And then there's something else. So I'm asking you all, if you're going to do this, either do it or just let me know you don't want to do it. That way I could just stick to my own property.
Councilmember Reed, then Spicer.
Okay, so what do we have to do? What do we have to suggest in order for this to go to?
Well, as it stands right now, the offer is, the purchase each lot for $1. There's 4 lots, and they would be added to the tax base, which they're not currently right now. And then there's just a comment to the council that there's an intent to build on, to combine the lots or 2 each together.
I know that. What do we have to do to get to a hearing on this?
Yeah.
Put it on the agenda.
You have to decide whether or not you want to accept the offer of $4 or whether or
I
not.
make a motion we accept.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Okay. Is there any discussion on that? We've had discussion. Is there further discussion on that?
I just want the council member to take into consideration the title fees and closing costs. I know we're paying the closing costs on that lot on Ash Street, and I believe it's like $375, so.
So then what I would suggest to council is that if you're going to accept the $4, that it would be $4 plus closing costs and any recording fees.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend that to include that? No. Okay, so that's a motion to amend it to include the closing costs. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we have the main motion with the amendment of the closing fees. Is there any further discussion? Okay, and I will say, even though combining the lots, it's going to come back.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to pay closing on each lot, or I don't know anything about real estate.
So they'll do a search on for each parcel, and then each parcel is going to have its own
title.
Well, it's going to have its own recording fee and everything. So here's what the council needs to keep in mind. So in adding the closing costs and recording fees, the council essentially developed a counter offer. So what you're going to have, it's going to be up to Sims whether or not he accepts the city's counter offer, and then you'll have your public hearing, and then you can move forward at that point.
Okay. Is that?
I don't know what the amount would,
Okay.
would come
So
up.
basically, we're just approving our offer. Counter offer. Okay. So as it stands right now, the main motion that's been amended is to sell the lots for $1 plus the closing kind of title fees and things like that. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I concede to Councilmember Lawler.
Councilmember Spicer.
You gotta go home. Mayor, I thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that, the offer and subsequent counter offer, it certainly is well for the city because it generates revenue for the city in the way of property taxes, and it also frees up our city maintenance workers to do other things other than maintaining those lots. So I think it's kind of a win for the city. However, I do want to caution us that we should really consider moving forward after this with regard to selling lots and properties for the city I think we should have a suggested cost. I don't like the idea of people coming to us and purchasing lots for $1.50. So I mean, if somebody wanted it, I think that's something we should just look at. I mean, there's value in land and property. I realize. So in addition to the benefit of giving the city property taxes, but I just think that we should really take a long, hard, fast look at associating a cost with the lots for the city.
Thank you, Councilmember Spicer. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have, Attorney Harkness, did you say that you believe that these lots there would be a closing cost associated with each lot?
Well, I can tell you this. So each lot, you're going to have to do a separate recording fee for each individual parcel.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I can tell you, regardless of how many pages it is, I think for each parcel, that's going to be $30. I can't say for sure because I haven't done enough of them, whether or not the title company would do a title search for each individual parcel. My inclination is that they probably would because they're individual parcels. Not 100% sure on that. Maybe John's nodding in the affirmative, so I'm going to go with yes. So ballpark on that, that's probably $250, $300-ish per parcel about would be a rough estimate. So you're looking at somewhere between $280 and $330 for closing costs and recording fees for each parcel-ish.
But
so I have a question to follow up with my question. The property on Ash Street that you referenced, did we eat the closing costs on that?
Yes. But we bought that property from the county. That was the agreement. We paid $1 for it.
Right.
And closing costs.
Okay. Okay.
And usually the buyer.
Well, that's not the issue at hand, so I won't go there, but I know it's coming up, and I'll save it. Go ahead.
okay, so is there any further discussion on that? Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote to approve that, our counteroffer, which is basically for the $1 per parcel, and then including the various kind of closing fees for that.
I think,
Attorney Harkness.
I guess what I would suggest is maybe to firm things up for Mr. Sims is we can, I mean, like I said, the recording fee is what it is. I can tell you that for sure, but maybe we talk to the title company and just say, what are you going to charge us for title search on 4 individual parcels? And that way that can be the number. We put it in writing to Mr. Sims saying we can sell you these parcels for $1 each plus title search and recording fees on each.
Okay, but does that prevent us from just approving
that
pending that number?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can still
do
that. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. We will move on to our final item here. Okay, so request for approval, a firm for city manager search. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So what we did, Obviously, we're in the process of selecting a permanent manager, and per our charter, we have to put a bid out for consultants or firms that would help with the search. And we received several. I know council received them all in their packets. I'm also aware of time here, and I know Councilmember French is not here. I don't want to schedule another. I mean, we might have to. Yeah.
Why?
Or do we want to hash it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Yeah.
Okay. So we received. Okay. We received 7 responses. One was from the Mercer Group. The other was from, and I'll read the names in full. Strategic Government Resources. So the Mercer Group is out of Georgia. One second. Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia. Strategic Government Resources, that is a Texas firm. Slavin Management Consultants, that is also from Georgia. Obviously, the Michigan Municipal League is in Michigan. Springstead Waters, which is out of Minnesota. Let's see. Raymond, which is out of Grand Rapids. And then Gov HR USA, I believe, is in Illinois. And, you know, they each provided descriptions of what they offer. And I believe, did you do this for the? Okay. The clerk also provided a breakdown, a table there of their standard search fee and then the not to exceed fee. So I guess I just wanted to open up the conversation for any thoughts from council on the proposals. And, you know, what we can do is maybe start the process by, you know, eliminating. That might be helpful. So the discussion is open. Is there any? Councilmember Reed.
I am going to stick with MML. I think they did really good on who we had before, and it's the same people who did that one, so I'm sure they're going to be excellent.
Okay. Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. After looking over the documents for Gov HR USA, I'd like to say that I like that one.
Okay. Are there any further comments before I jump in?
Eliminating or?
Well, I guess we're just starting the discussion here, and then we can hash it out.
Okay. Well, then after considering the RFQs, I had on my list 2 of the search firms that I would possibly be interested in retaining for their services to help in our city manager search. And I would like to consider the SGR firm. I think that for their information, they're located in Michigan, locally, and no, he's not. The person that Doug Thomas, the person that they would be assigning to us is a Michigan Knight, so he knows the Michigan area, and the other firm that I would be interested in is the firm that Councilwoman Lawler indicated that she would like to recommend. So for me, it would be the SGR and Gov HR USA.
Okay. One question I do have, I know Director Mead is not here. Would this be direct general fund expenditure?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Generally, it comes out of the city manager's budget, I think.
Okay. Do we know, I know we're paying
Yeah.
you, but then do we know how much is?
I don't know. I know
Okay.
we're saving more than you're paying me.
Okay.
But
Okay.
what that is exactly, I don't know.
Okay. That's important.
Because it's not just the salaries, the benefits as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. So I've heard Councilman Reed, MML, Councilmember Lawler, GovHR, Councilmember Spicer, the SGR, and then GovHR. So I think it might help, like I said, I was saying eliminating. So the one that kind of struck me as weird was the Mercer one. I know it was the lower cost one, but there was like I couldn't figure out if there was an error in there because it referenced us as being a client at one point in there.
I hadn't seen anything.
Yeah.
A number.
Okay. And I thought that was kind of odd. So was there anyone who had I guess a burning passion or impression from the Mercer firm? Because if not, we could probably eliminate that one.
What about?
The Mercer firm, because when I read through it, there was a, I don't know if it was an error, but it cited us as client. And that's not the case. Let me see. If you go back. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so on, well, it's on page, well, it's page 2. It's actually there's the cover sheet, there's the letter, 2-page letter, then there's, it's the page that has recruiting team at the top in the Mercer. And, but we're listed there as under the executive search experience in 2012. Yeah, so I thought that was odd. So that kind of concerned me in terms of in 2012. I thought that was off. No.
Well, I wondered if they didn't work for MML then. That was my only thought. But I don't remember the names of the people that we had.
I know the last time her name was Joyce Parker. That's what it was. The last time when we.
I thought it was a gentleman
that was the first time,
okay.
but the time for
Right.
the most recent was the
Yep.
Joyce Parker. So,
Okay.
so that kind of that was a big concern.
Right. Or were they part of MML where they helped in some way, and that's the only thing I could think of. But
No, because I think
it is odd.
they're based out of North Carolina. That's pretty much so. I would just recommend excluding that.
Okay.
But I think one of the questions, I think a big question that's going to be that'll help us is the question about how much,
Well, I can tell you based on, if you're looking at a 5-month period of time, based on salary alone, it would be $20,000.
Okay. So we've saved.
Yeah. And that doesn't include the benefits that go with that during that same period of time. And my guess is this will probably be more like a 6-month period, which would increase that as well by
Okay.
another $4,000 because it's
Okay.
roughly $1,000 a week. So.
Okay. So in terms of my impression, I was impressed with the SGR one as well. And I didn't, so I know, so I looked at that one, I looked at all of them, but the other thing I know that, so they had an example for Midland, which is a Michigan community, but then also the GovHR one actually did Battle Creek. And then, let's see, which one did count? Let's see. Sorry, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm not opposed to hashing these out and narrowing these down. But I think it's important before we make a decision, we know exactly how much money we're working with. And not that we have, we don't want to have to wait in order to be able to afford to do this. I think we need to know what we have as far as funds.
Yeah.
Well, it all depends on the period of time that the manager's not here.
Right.
So the longer that goes, the more funds that you have to work with.
Which
So,
makes sense.
and you can't estimate that now until we're to the point that we're hiring a new manager. It could be 6 months, it could be 8 months, it could be a year. The other thing you have to consider is that we've got more than enough money in the fund balance to cover these costs, and I think it's essential that we do this and spend this money. So.
No, I don't object to anything you said.
Okay, go ahead.
Never mind. Go ahead. I'm too tired.
Councilman Reed.
You know, we had five books to go through. I think we should have made a form up as to what we're really looking for. Okay, you know that the price is going to be one of the things you're looking for. And if you had one so that you could evaluate each book as to what its people has to offer at what point you're looking for, it's going to be a lot easier than what we're doing now.
Well, I think part of what the RFP was to say they have to address, you know, certain dimensions of the search, right? So, you know, you have to provide us with, you know, the names of the consultants, the fee structure, you know, examples of, you know, materials that you've produced. So I think they've done that. You know, basically what I was looking at is the level of detail they go into in terms of how they evaluate the candidates and help and assist us in evaluating them, and then also looked at closely at other communities that they've worked with, because like I said, I know for example, when I was going through here, so GovR helped with Battle Creek, and then I believe they may have done Kalamazoo, if I'm not getting confused. But so I was looking at that too as what other communities did they work with as well? So Attorney Harkness.
So I guess maybe what I would offer as a suggestion, council, and I think everything you said is great, and it's exactly what council should do. But since you're working with 7, maybe what you should do as a council is I guess for lack of a better word, survey council to find out what are the top 3 out of that 7 that you even want to talk about, and then from those top 3, do everything that you just said, go through and see who's appropriately responded, who's the most qualified, and then you're working from a much smaller list than what you've got tonight. Because I mean, quite frankly, you could talk about all 7 of these.
That's right.
Forever.
So then we'll have to come back, because I don't want this to lag, and you know, if we do that, we're probably going to do another meeting. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. In that vein, I'd like to suggest that motion that we schedule a meeting for this Thursday to further hash out.
I second that.
Okay, and then also we'll have, well, I don't know, will he be back? Do we know?
I think he's gone all week, but I'm not sure.
Okay. We have to do it this week because I don't want to keep pushing it. So I'm. Huh?
Were you waiting for Tom?
Well, yeah, he'd be here, but also Councilmember French and Barnes as well. The 14th. Is anyone would that conflict with anyone if it was the 14th?
When's the 14th?
It's a Monday, a week from today.
Oh, yeah, just go.
The Mother's Day.
Okay. Yeah. I guess what I would do. We'll go with the Thursday this week, and then what I'll do is I'll get a hold of Councilmember French and just see if we can get him. Make sure he has materials because he can at least respond, and so we'll have his ranking. So,
So that's Thursday.
So what, I'm going to ask, yes, Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Reed says she wouldn't be able to make it.
Not the 10th. That's okay. You will have enough of you all to go through. I don't know how.
Is tomorrow too cool? Okay. Would that be too soon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What about Wednesday?
Would Wednesday work?
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week is not good.
Okay. Okay. What I'll do is here's what we'll do. So that we don't hash out council time here for scheduling. What I'll do is I'll ask for a motion to postpone this until it's scheduled, the next scheduled meeting, or to a meeting to be scheduled for it.
Okay.
And then I'll poll council because I do want to make sure that as much as possible we have input from other council members. But and I do like the suggestion of Attorney Harkness that we're going to just select those top three. You know, I think most of what I've heard this evening, people, you know, the council members have looked through and have an idea of what the standout proposals are. So we'll do that. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it possible for Attorney Harkness or possibly the interim city manager to give us a list of things to look for, such as number of placements and, you know, maybe a checklist, as Ms. Reed indicated, a checklist of some sort. I mean, I know that for me, I consider, you know, the person that would be, that they've assigned to work with us, a consultant, whether they were local or not. And so for me, that mattered in addition to the money, you know, but maybe someone who has never done this.
I think the best thing to do, that's tough to do just because, you know, there are certain, for example, in the SGR proposal, there's a section about discus assessments, right? So that might be, that's kind of like a personality test, and so if that's not included in the other proposals, it's going to be hard to kind of put a category for that. So I think what we should do is, which we've been doing, is kind of just go through and see, you know, which proposals are leaving no stone unturned, and then, like I said, we have to. Each of us are going to individually have to make a determination: is it worth that amount, right? So, for example, with what Councilmember Reed said, you know, we're a member of MML. They've done the past 2 searches. Someone might prioritize that, whereas someone else might say, well, you know, I want to save the city the most amount of money, so I'm going to automatically go to the one with the lowest search fee. So I think it's really dependent on each of our judgments, and then we can hash that out. But, you know, like, so in my case, I've looked at how do they describe their process for vetting candidates, and then I also looked, similar to what you're saying, to what's their experience with dealing with municipalities that are either our size or in Michigan. So. Yes. So is there a motion? Yes. Okay. Is there a motion to do that? And I'll poll the council for a date.
Yes, I so moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, not opposed. Okay, and I will do that, and I'll also touch bases with Councilmember French as well. Future agenda items, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Before Councilmember Barnes left, he asked that I add 608 Austin Ave on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay. Okay, so that's one. I would also add rental certification, just so we can bring that before us formally and we can start that going. Councilman Reed.
Albion Juneteenth celebration.
Okay, just a presentation on that. Okay. Councilmember Brown or Councilmember Law and then Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, how we're gonna do future lots.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. And our final goal-setting session needs to be scheduled.
Okay.
So we can prioritize.
Okay.
I'm also asking for scratch that. I think I'll hold off.
Okay. The other thing, and I have to talk to, I'll put it on here tentatively, but I'll talk with the finance director. But income tax collection, I kind of want to start talking about that and maybe see what options we have in terms of doing that. Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. For Clerk Domingo, what I was scratching was what I hadn't said yet. I did want the goal-setting session to be. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And on the 608 Austin, did he want that as a discussion, or did
he did not say. He just, I think what he wants to make sure that whatever the next step is, that it comes before us for, so I would say action, yes. Maybe. Is it action?
Well,
yeah, we'll do that. Discuss and approve. Are there any future agenda items? Okay. Is there a motion to excuse Councilmember French?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
second.
All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. Public comments, persons addressing the city council. We ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes and that you observe proper decorum. Are there any public comments in general? Please state your name and address.
Dave Atchison, 108 West Erie. There's some slightly odd language in the resolutions that you voted on, and it wasn't discussed in here. So I've got a question, if you could explain what this means. In both the version A and version B, the last portion of it says, taxes within the Downtown Development Authority, DDA, and the Tax Increment Finance Authority, TIFA, districts will be distributed as prescribed by law. How else would they be distributed if not in accordance with law? So what does that mean? What's that reference to? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments?
Good evening. Andrew Texel, 1112 East Porter Street, Maricor Vista here in Albion. I'll be brief because of the time, but this evening before the city council meeting, I gave you some flyers for some upcoming meetings for neighborhood planning councils. There are also, for people in the audience who are interested, flyers up here as well. Just for people who don't know, they're neighborhood groups that meet to take action on issues affecting their community. And I'll just list off the times and locations for these first meetings. Each of them is between around 7 and 8 p.m. There's one on May 22nd at the Charles Snyder Building, May 24th at the Fork Senior Center, May 29th at the American Legion Post, June 5th at the First United Methodist Church, June 7th at the Marshall Opportunity High School in the library, and finally June 14th on the second floor of the Albion District Library. These would be more like informational meetings for anyone who's interested, regardless of where they are geographically. and then we can get started on the actual formation of these groups. So I just wanted to make that known, and we'll be doing more flyering and advertising for these events coming up soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Tompkins.
And I'll be fast, I promise. I'll do the best I can. Sorry, guys. Mr. Mayor, council members, Interim City Manager Kip, Clerk Domingo, residents of the City of Albion, and the folks watching this evening, good evening. Gary Tompkins, your County Commissioner. It's always great to be with you folks. Got a lot of good news tonight, so I'm going to share it with you as quickly as I can. First of all, at our recent County Commissioners meeting, we approved a resolution authorizing the County Treasurer to set up a reserve account within the delinquent tax revolving fund designated for the County Land Bank, and thereby appropriating $640,000 to complete demolition to 23 projects countywide. In the 7th District, 6 properties have been identified, 3 of which are in the City of Albion, and they are as follows: 201 East Pine Street, 325 Broadwell Street, and 502 Burr Oak Street. So those are the 3 additional properties. These properties will go above the threshold of the $25,000 grant. Thus, they needed additional funding, so therefore those 3 projects will be taken care of. So again, good news as we move forward. I know demolitions were one of your discussions this evening, and always good to have good news for that. I want to take an opportunity to congratulate the City of Albion on the recent approval of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grants for the 2019 fiscal year, which include the Iron Bell Trail acquisition and the Albion River Trail expansion. Both projects will certainly continue to strengthen Albion, certainly in the east side of county. So again, another positive thing certainly for the City of Albion. And then probably most of you did receive my monthly newsletter. As always, it's available. And if you're not on the email list and you're interested in receiving it, you can certainly email me on the bottom of the sheet. Hard copies are available at the Albion District Library. It's always a good resource to know what's going on in and around the 7th District. And specifically this month in my newsletter, I reference on page 3 a 2018 equalization report for the 7th District in market value per parcel. The City of Albion saw a 1.14% increase in values per parcel this year, which brings you folks to $42,142 per parcel for market value. And overall, you've seen an increase of 7.72% the last 2 years. So very, very positive. As you can see, you continue to see those market values go up. And additionally, on page 4, I detail real and personal property values for 2018 as well. Albion saw a 9.12% increase in real property values for 2018, very positive, and 9.2% over those 2-year span. The large increases in 2018 is due to commercial and industrial new construction and the addition of new equipment. So again, very positive information going forward as the revitalization continues. Personal property values did reduce by 1.83% in 2018 and reduced 3.9% over the past 2 years, and that's pretty typical across the county as personal property tax values exemptions continue to are phased in, and those bulk of those losses are already collectively seen. So you're probably not going to see those as much as you would in the future. And then on page 5, I also detail property values based on area for 2018. And in 2018, Albion saw increases in both commercial and industrial areas, but saw a decrease in residential, but very small decrease. So overall, very positive news for the 2018 equalization report moving forward. So good news certainly for the City of Albion. And then finally, I want to take a quick opportunity. I want to say that I had the opportunity and honor to be in attendance at the Sexual Assault Services Recognition Dinner, in which Councilmember Lawler was recognized. Certainly, and Yolanda Brewer, also Albion resident, for their volunteer victim advocate, and it's quite an honor, and I was just glad to be there to share in that. So thank you for all you do. And also as well, Sergeant Nicole Wygant also received an award for the Champion for Children. So again, lots of great things going on in the City of Albion, all the things you folks are doing. So excellent job. And then finally, real quickly, congratulations to Mr. Harkness for your recent wedding there, sir. Absolutely. So with that being said, unless there's any questions, you folks have a great evening. It's always great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll tell them. Mr. Loomis.
Jay Loomis, 408 West Ash Street. Thank you very much. I had a question. I thought about this when I was going through this, and I have to tie it to something else, and I apologize for that, but I will make it quick. if I have a really bad year and I don't mow my lawn and Mr. Hawkins has to come and mow my lawn, and if I recall correctly, the cheapest lot that he mows is roughly $330, which includes a $130 paperwork and easement fee. That would be added to my taxes, and then say I had good years after that, I would basically have 3 years to pay it off, because you have 3 years before it gets foreclosed on. On 608 Austin Avenue, if you, for example, jack them $20,000 to take down this building, if I'm figuring this right, she would then have 3 years to pay that back, because that would go on her taxes, because that is still tax property. It hasn't been foreclosed on, because you had to sue them to get them the right to do that, if I understood what I remember. It's also, it even goes beyond that, because if I recall what I've read, she's in the military in Hawaii, and therefore they'll stretch that out for years to pay off if she wanted to. My question is, if she by chance did pay it off, or he or she, I don't know if it's a he or she, but if they did perchance pay it off, would that money go back into the solid waste fund? Or does it then, does the county keep it because it's taxes? I realize I don't have to have an answer tonight, but that's my question. Thank you much.
Thank you. I just because it's, I'll be very, very brief, but, and I'm sure the attorney can describe that, but prescribed by law basically is just a catch-all for any statute or local law. Yeah, so it's just a placeholder for, we have to, it has to be in accordance with. Yeah, so I can't answer that question. I was just, yeah, so I can talk to you afterwards, but basically that's not, it's like standard language. So is there any further public comments?
Ronnie Sims, 710 West Erie Street. I just wanted to remind everyone that next Monday at the Bone Theater, there's going to be a musical honoring mothers for Mother's Day, and we know Mother's Day is Sunday, so the very next day at the Bone, so everyone is invited. We're expecting between 300 and 400 people to be there, so, and we have some great entertainment, so come out and bring your mothers to this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comment this evening, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Move a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Council members. Oh yeah. So